Alright, now this right here is a Samsung Galaxy S21 FE, one of the most sought after devices in the country right now. Now, although this has been launched in India at a later stage as compared to the international market, it's still a pretty viable option. However, the one thing that's upsetting to a lot of folks is the price tag of rupees 54,999. Now, for about the same price tag, you know what else you can get? The iPhone 12. So we decided why not make a comparison video for about 55,000, which phone makes a better value for you. Is it the S21 FE, which is basically a flagship device with some cost cuttings? Or is it the iPhone 12, which is Apple's, previous flagship device? So without wasting any time, this is Varun from GTR and let's get started. Alright, so let's start off by talking about the design here. Now, the iPhone 12 has a brilliant glass back design with its glossy finish. Now, of course, this attracts a lot of fingerprints, but then again, it also looks quite premium. The front sports a ceramic shield with oleophobic coating, and the aluminum frame here has a matte finish to it. On the other hand, the S21 FE 5G has a plastic back in comparison, which feels, smooth to touch and feel when you hold it, but somehow feels a little bit cheaper in comparison to the iPhone 12. The good part here is that the front sports a Corning Gorilla Glass Victus protection while being inside an aluminum frame closure. Now in hand, the S21 FE definitely feels a bit heavier thanks to its weight of 177 grams, while the iPhone 12 weighs just 164 grams. With that being said, the S21 FE does have a nice grip in hand when compared to the iPhone, which might be because of the curves on the sides. Now I know that's a very divided opinion. A lot of folks actually like the flat design of the iPhones, and if you do that, then for sure go for it. I mean, it is anyway a lighter phone, but even then, I personally like the slight curves here on the S21 FE because you get a slight bit of grip here. So yeah, it's a personal take. Now both the phones are IP68 certified for dust and water resistance, and that's really good. And in terms of connectivity, the iPhone 12 has a single SIM, but you can also install an eSIM for dual SIM support, while with the S21 FE you get proper physical dual SIM support. Alright, so moving along, let's talk about the displays. And the interesting part here is that both the displays are from the house of Samsung. Now they're both great panels, but as far as specifications go, the iPhone 12 has a 6.1-inch Retina XDR OLED display with support for HDR10 and Dolby Vision, while the S21 FE 5G has a 6.4-inch Dynamic AMOLED panel with 120Hz of refresh rate and HDR10 Plus support. Now, if you leave the tech jargon aside and you describe it in a more layman terms, the iPhone 12 has a more color accurate panel, while the S21 FE has a more vibrant panel and a more smoother panel. So as a result, when you're using it, the S21 FE's display definitely feels a bit superior. However, if you're into content consumption primarily, nothing beats the iPhone 12. Other than that, they're both excellent when it comes to outdoor visibility, and like I said, they hold up very well against normal dust and scratches. Okay, next up, let's talk about one of the biggest talking points of this comparison, which are these lovely cameras. So on paper, or even by looking at it, you can tell that the S21 FE has an advantage in the numbers game, but is the actual performance that good? Now in our testing, we saw that the iPhone 12 shoots more natural photos with exposure being a little bit on the higher side. Well, in contrast, the S21 FE shoots more saturated photos with exposure being normal. Now this is something that Samsung is always known for saturating their photos, but it's nice to see that Samsung has now understood what amount of saturation actually looks good. Now the photos on the S21 FE are definitely a tad bit sharper simply because of the bigger sensor and obviously a little bit of software processing. But it's not like the iPhone 12 is in any way inferior. In fact, the iPhone 12 has better focus, sharpness, and also the buildings have better HDR. In fact, I was quite surprised by seeing that the iPhone 12 not only competes but actually has better HDR than the Galaxy S21 FE. I mean, HDRs have always been a strong point for Samsung cameras, but yep, the iPhone 12 definitely manages to outshine it. The one thing that definitely stands out is that all of the camera samples that you've seen so far and what you are also seeing right now on the screen, the iPhone has a lot of consistency in all of those shots. With the S21 FE, some shots are a little bit saturated, while the others are kind of trying to be leaning towards the neutral tones. Now, in terms of real video, the iPhone 12 delivers a more consistent and better video output, but the S21 FE has a ton of features embedded inside its camera. And the S21 FE also shoots great videos when judged individually, but of course, in comparison, the iPhone 12 has always been the standout phone for videography. So yeah, to sum it up, in the camera section, I would say the iPhone has a more reliable camera simply because it's more consistent. While with the S21 FE, for the most part, you'll get shots that are, well, more favorable to look at because the colors look more vibrant thanks to the added saturation. But there are instances where the end result might look like, yeah, could use some work. So yeah, you'll have to do some post-processing here and there at times. Overall, they're both excellent cameras. I mean, they're still flagship grade. Other than that, if videography is your primary focus, well, we've already seen in the past years that when it comes to videos, nothing beats the iPhones, and that still remains true. Alright, so next up, let's talk about the performance. I mean, I don't really need to get into the depths of it. It's the Apple A14 Bionic chipset versus Samsung's Exynos chipset. And see, they're both flagship processors from the respective brands. And it's a no-brainer that Apple has a more powerful processor here. But the question is, leave the benchmarks aside. How does the day-to-day performance actually translate? And to be honest, as a normal user, you won't really notice any issues with either of the devices. It's a lag-free experience on both the devices. Everything runs smoothly, whether it's individual heavy tasks like gaming or basically recording 4K footage, if you're juggling between multiple apps. Even multitasking works great on both the devices, regardless of the amount of RAM each phone claims to have. Other than that, performance is obviously aided by the software. And okay, that's a very big and a divided opinion about iOS over Android. And I'm not really going to be again getting into the depth of it. It's a personal choice whether you like iOS as a OS and whether you like the overall smoothness of it, whether you like the overall reliability of it, or you like the overall customizations that are offered on basically Samsung's OneUI here. And the good part to note here is that as far as the Android world is concerned, I would say Samsung has the most premium and the most secure Android skin out there. It's the most premium in terms of the features and the polishing, and is the most secure thanks to Knox security. I mean, basically, if you're going to leave iOS for a reliable Android, this is basically the kind of Android skin you definitely need to go for. Another thing why I'm saying it's premium is because Samsung has worked really hard in ensuring their software updates. This thing comes with Android 12 out of the box with OneUI 4.0, and Samsung has promised 3 years of security updates, which is excellent. Obviously, even in that regard, Apple will definitely be supporting the iPhone 12 for a longer period of time. But nonetheless, it's important to give credit where it's due, and Samsung definitely deserves a lot of credit for not only supporting long-term Android updates on their own devices, but also setting the market trend for a lot of other Android devices too. Alright, so next up we have the battery life, and the iPhone 12 sports a 2815 mAh battery with supposedly 20 watts of fast charging and 15 watts of supposedly Qi wireless charging, while the S21 FE 5G sports a 4500 mAh battery with support for up to 25 watts of fast charging and 15 watts of wireless charging. And the S21 FE also supports wireless power sharing. Now, notice how I said supposedly when talking about iPhone's battery life, right? Or basically the battery charging speeds. The problem with that is that the wireless charging, the 15 watt claimed one, only works with MagSafe chargers. You cannot use a normal Qi charger to get 15 watts of fast charging. So that's one point. The good part here is obviously you can use any USB PD charger and connect the iPhone's lightning cable that's provided in the box to charge this thing up. Works very well. So 20 watts is supported there. So that's nice to see. With the Samsung, you get 25 watts of fast charging. There is no charger included in the box, same as Apple. So you'll obviously have to buy a USB PD charger regardless of which device you go with. My go-to recommendation is obviously the products from AMX India, so you can definitely check them out. The one advantage that Samsung has in terms of charging right now is the fact that the wireless charging here is definitely Qi charging, so globally works across all platforms out there. And obviously it also has wireless power sharing, so you can basically charge your iPhone with the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE. Okay, so that was the part about the battery charging speeds, but what about the battery life in itself? Well, in that context, both the phones last about the same time. I mean, they both can go 1 day of heavy use, or if you're a medium or light user, you can easily stretch them both to 1.5 days. So yeah, in that aspect, they're both equally good, no complaints whatsoever. Which brings us to the verdict. The S21 FE versus the iPhone 12. Which one to pick? Well, It's always going to be a personal choice, and in my personal preference, I think I would lean towards the iPhone 12. Now, that is not to say that the iPhone 12 is a better phone. In many ways, the Samsung Galaxy S21 FE actually comes out on top. It has a better display. It has a more likable camera output, at least for photography results. It has better charging speeds. And the performance is still pretty good. I mean, it's obviously, if you leave the benchmarks aside, it's a comparable performance. So, no complaints there. And as I am saying, I am a fan of Android, personally, at least when it comes to Android versus iOS. In that aspect, Samsung's OneUI is easily the best custom skin out there. So all of that does make the S21 FE 5G definitely a better pick over the iPhone 12. With all of that being said, like I said, it's always going to be a personal preference. And personally, I think I'm a little too heavily invested in the Apple ecosystem right now. More importantly, I do rely on videos as well. I do record a lot of videos from my smartphone. And overall, the weight and the ergonomics of the iPhone 12 do make it a more handy device. Now, I will say that yes, I do like the curves of the S21 FE more, but I like the overall weight distribution of the iPhone 12, which still makes it a more handy device in the long run. So yeah, my pick would be the iPhone 12, but if you want, you can definitely go for the S21 FE 5G as well. It's a great device and easily recommendable over the iPhone 12 to a lot of folks as well. And well, that was it. If you found this video helpful, make sure to let us know by giving us a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel for more awesome tech content. Till then, this is Ram from GTR, and I'll see you in the next one.